Rabotai, welcome back to another Halacha series of Evean HaEzer. We are continuing Siman Aleph in Halacha Hey. There will be two parts of the Shu'ur. We want to try to see today, Be'ezrat Hashem B'li Neder, the Shulchan Aruch, the Behetiv, and also a point in the Cham that he brings, that's something that the Behetiv doesn't bring. And tomorrow we'll try to see the Petchit Shu'ur because he goes back and forth where he disagrees with what the Cham says. As we'll see it B'li Neder, Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow. Today we want to speak about when can we safely say that a guy has fulfilled the mitzvah of fruitful. Comes to Shulchan Aruch in Halacha Hey, and he says, Kevan sheyesh la'adam zachar unkeva. Since a person has a male and a female, meaning a boy and a girl, kiyem mitzvat pri'ah urvi'ah. He fulfills the mitzvah of fruitful. But comes to Shulchan Aruch and he says something, and he says, it's not just any child. Vehu shelo yeha ben saris o hanekeva al yelonit. That as long as the boy, his son, is not a saris, I will explain what that means. Or the daughter is an al yonit. I'll explain what that means also. Rabotai, saris and al yonit, they're one and the same thing. Is one just applies for the boy, to a male, and one applies to the girl, to the female. What is a saris? A saris, lolena rabotai, is a person who's sterile. A boy who's sterile, he cannot have children. He can't bring children to the world. What about what's an alilonit? Very simple, rabotai, same concept, but it applies to the girl. It's a girl that's not childbearing. She can't bring children to the world. In the parentheses over here, it says in the smaller font, he says if you take the word ayilonit, the first four letters of the word is Aleph Yud Yud Lamid. It's spelled ayil. What's an ayil, Rabotai? Ayil is a ram, a male sheep. So why are we calling this girl why do we give her such a name where it defines a male sheep? So that's what he wants to explain, and he said like this. Ayil yonit, pirush ayil. Right? Ayil yonit, pirush ayil. What's the explanation of an ayil? Hu zachar hatzon. That is the male flock of the sheep. Koloimer, what does that mean to say? Why do we have to give her that name? Sheyesh le'isha teva hazachar. The woman has the nature of a guy, of a man. V'simanechahem, how do we know if this woman is able to bring children or not? So he says the signs to know it. She'en la shadaim kinashim. She does not have breasts like a woman. She's flat. V'kola ava, and her voice is very thick. It's more closer to a man's voice. V'oto makom eno bolet migufa ki yeter anashim, and that place, meaning her private part, does not bulge out from her body like it does by other women. So comes over here the Shulchan Aruch and explaining to us, he's giving us the pirush of the word ayilonit. That what? Because the ayil comes from the word ayil, which is a ram. So he tells you it's the flock of the sheep, it's the male ones, to teach you that if a woman who has natures of a guy, meaning she's flat, she doesn't have breast, her voice is very hoarse, it's more like closer to men, it's very heavy. And also he's explaining over here that her private part, Rabotai, I don't have to tell you, but in a general woman's private part, it basically has like a little bit bold, it goes out a little bit. She doesn't have it, it's flat. So if you have these simanim lolin, Rabotai, you should know that this is what defines a girl who is not childbearing. So Rabotai, one more time. Since a person has a boy and a girl, he fulfills the mitzvah of fruitful, being fruitful and multiplying. That as long as the boy is not a saris, meaning sterile, or the girl, she's not childbearing. So we saw in the parentheses, pirush ayil, hu zachar hatzon. How do you define the word ayil, which is a ram? That's the male of the sheep. Meaning to say that the woman has the nature of a guy. And what are the simanim that she has of a guy? She'ein la shadam kinashim. She does not have her breasts are not like woman. It's not coming out, but rather she's flat. V'kula ava, her voice is very thick, very hoarse, more tilting like a man's voice. And that place, the private place, does not come out from her body like other women have it. Okay, Rabotai, we see from the Shulchan Aruch that in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvah pru'urvu, you have to have a boy and a girl. But when we're saying a boy and a girl, these children also have to be childbearing children. The boy has to be able to bring children to the world, and the girl has to be able to bring children to the world. Because if they cannot bring children to the world, the father did not do the mitzvah of pru'urvu, and he has to go again and try to bring children to the world that are able to bring children to the world. Now, Rabbatai, having this in mind, we want to see today 3 cases. I'll tell you outside and I'll read it to you inside. What happens if you have a person has a boy and a girl? They're childbearing. Each one is able to bring children. But what? They don't want to get married. Does the father fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu? What about Rabbotai? They're both childbearing, but the boy, he fell in love with the girl who's an ayil yonit, who's not childbearing. Or the girl, she fell in love with a boy who's a saris, who's sterile. So now they're not going to have children. Are we still going to say in all these 3 cases that the father does the mitzvah of pru'urvu? Yes or no? So this is what we want to see today. B'ezrat Hashem in Sivkat and Chet. Also, we want to see it in Sivkat and Vav in the Cham, because the Be'eita doesn't bring this one piece down. So the Be'eita in Sivkat and Chet says, Dibra Matchil Saris. Mashma Peidehi, it's implied over here that the Shulchan Aruch is particular. Shaloyu Serisim or El Yunut. The Shulchan Aruch is particular that in order to fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu, he wants the father not to have a child, not to have a boy who's a saris, or a girl who's an al yonit. In order for the father to fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu, he has to bring childbearing children. Why is he particular with it? The enam ru'uyim klal eloholid, because they're not fit at all to bring children to the world. So that's what the Shulchan Aruch is particular about them. And he's telling you that in order to fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu, you have to bring childbearing children. If you don't bring childbearing children, you did not fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. Aval, however, comes the Be'etiv, and he says, Im hem ru'uyim leholid. But what happens if they're fit? They're childbearing, the boy and the girl. Aval, one second, I'm so sorry. Aval im hem ru'uyim leholid. What happens if they're childbearing children? Ela nasa isha al yonit. Rather, the son, he fell in love with an al yonit. He fell in love with a girl who's not childbearing. Or the other way around. Vihi nesu'al saris. Or she got married to a sterile person who can't have children. That comes out that they both cannot have children. Su avihim patur mipru'urvu. That's it, finished. The father is patur from the mitzvah of pru'urvu. The father fulfilled the mitzvah of pru'urvu. The Shulchan Aruch is telling you, I'm particular about, put it like this. The Shulchan Aruch is saying that when do I say that you fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu? That is specifically if you have childbearing children. That's what I'm particular about. To have childbearing children, then you fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. But the Shulchan Aruch is telling you, but if you don't have childbearing children, you don't fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. And we saw the Be'etiv, he brings it down the name of the Bash and the Cham, and he says something very fascinating. Even when you have childbearing children, and they want to go ahead and each one wants to marry another spouse which is not childbearing. For example, by the guy, he wants to marry the al yonit, and the girl wants to marry a saris. Comes the Shulchan Aruch, even in such a case, he's going to tell you, he fulfilled they want to learn the Bash and the Cham want to say that you do fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. Rabotai, listen to this carefully. According to the Shulchan Aruch, it's one thing to have childbearing children. Then you would tell you fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. But what happens if these children, they go ahead and they marry spouses which are not childbearing? Even in such a case, comes the Bash and the Cham, they learn the Shulchan Aruch that the father still fulfills the mitzvah of pru'urvu, and he does not have to go ahead and bring more children to the world. Comes the Chum, Rabotai, the Chum asks the third case that we spoke in the beginning, and the Chum says like this. I'm just going to read to you that one third case because it's all repetition. In Sivkat Nevav, O Shalom Nasa'u Klal, or they didn't get married at all. Ki Av Pru Urvu, the father of the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. Comes the Chum, Rabotai, he adds a third case. If these childbearing children decided not to get married, whatever the reason was, they couldn't, whatever it was, Rabotai, does the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu? Absolutely. So we see over here clearly, when is the Shulchan Aruch going to tell you don't fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu? That is specifically when you bring a child that is a saris for a boy, a alyonit for a girl. In this case, only you don't fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. But in any other case, meaning once you have a boy and a girl, and they're childbearing, they don't get married, not my problem. The children want to go ahead and they want to marry a spouse that's not childbearing, but because they're childbearing, but they want to marry somebody that's not childbearing, that's not the father's problem, Rabotai. We're going to tell him he fulfills the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. Rabotai, we're going to conclude over here, but we're going to see the Petchit Shuvah. Tomorrow we'll see in Od Ched in the Petchit Shuvah, there's a sefer called Bnei Ahuva. He's not really happy about this idea. How can you tell me that if the children don't want to get married at all, you told me that the father fulfills the mitzvah of Pru Urvu? How is that different than the next halacha we'll see? Rabotai, lo leinu, Rabotai, we'll see in the next halacha in halacha vav. What happens if the father had a boy and a girl and they both died, lo leinu, Rabotai, but they left children behind? Does the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu or not? Because the father is still alive. Rabotai, B'lineder, from there the Sefer Bnei Ahuva is going to make a whole big balagan. B'lineder, I want to leave that for tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. In any event, a small chazara. We saw according to the Shulchan Aruch that we can safely say that if a person, meaning a man specifically, has a boy and a girl which are childbearing, he fulfills the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. If the children are not, again, Rabotai, I want to make this clear. It has to be a boy and a girl that are childbearing. If one of them is not childbearing, chas v'shalom, he does not do the mitzvah of Pru Urvu, he has to bring more children to the world. So again, he has to have a boy and a girl that are childbearing. If he brings a boy and a girl which are not childbearing, doesn't matter either or if even for how much more so, if both of them are not childbearing, he does not fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. But we did see what happens if the childbearing children don't want to get married, or they got married to people that are not childbearing. We saw in the name of the Cham and the Bash and the Behetiv that we say that the father does fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu, and he does not have to go back and bring more children to the world. Rabotai, I just want to clarify something. Not clarify, I just want to pinpoint something out. Rabotai, we're speaking about right now the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. We're not speaking about any other mitzvah. You guys have to remember, we have three mitzvahs when it comes to making children. One of them is Pru Urvu, which is bringing a boy and a girl that are childbearing. Another one is Le'erev al tadach yadcha. In the evening, do not pull your hand back. Meaning, you still have a mitzvah to bring more children to the world, even after you did the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. And you have another mitzvah of the Shev Yatzar to populate the world. So whenever we speak about Pru Urvu, we say that you fulfill this mitzvah. It doesn't exempt you from having more children. It just tells you that you did the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. But you still have other mitzvot on your head. Rabotai, this we did in the previous class. I think it was in Halacha Bet. In any event, Rabotai, it's good to have recordings. You can always go back and re-listen to it if you missed it. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Ve'amen.